So Florida Senate committee passes a bill that is being labeled the Don't Say Gay bill that would bar LGBTQ discussion in schools. So once again, the left is lying here because they're good at PR, but never good at telling the truth. And they will lie to get their revolution because this is not about actually banning conversation, right? This is the talking point ever since this public school stuff started happening, since COVID came around, is that they're the book burners, let them read, and all of that nonsense. And what's actually happening here is not that those on the right, conservatives in Florida, are banning conversation and denying the ability for those in the LGBTQIA plus carrot stick parentheses, et cetera, to exist. They're denying our existence. They're not doing that. What the bill actually suggests is that these conversations within schools should be had on an age-appropriate basis. So while the left wants to totally flip the definition of obesity and call it body positivity, they would cry out the moment a Bible shows up in a teacher's curriculum. But they can teach fourth grade boys to wear dresses, and we're supposed to sit back and say, hey, that's okay. So this bill is obviously intended to protect parents' rights, which actually the school board should be about, but of course they aren't anymore because they're more about wokeism than they are taking care of children. And that is clearly evidenced by any school district that is still masking children. We'll get into this in just a minute, COVID and kids. But suffice to say, this doesn't have anything to do with an attack on science. It doesn't have anything to do with the attack of the existence of those who are in the LGBTQIA plus community to exist. This really has to do with a simple fact that we've ceded over education of our children about these very, very sensitive and important topics to the public school system. Now, while I want to be clear that there are teachers who are absolute heroes, who sacrifice, who take money out of their own pocket to buy things for their classroom and all of that stuff, and those teachers are to be commended, it doesn't deny the existence of really incompetent and horrible teachers that don't even accomplish the fact of teaching kids to read or science or basic principles like math. And the education system in America is showing the fruit of that kind of labor, quite frankly. So if there's a kid anywhere in America that doesn't know how to read, and we're talking about this kind of stuff, there's obviously a misappropriation of priorities in the public school system because it's been inundated by radical leftist ideology. Furthermore, even if you didn't buy all of that, here's the one thing that I would say to you. Here's the moral of the story at the end of the day, is that we never, as parents, should have ceded the ground of teaching our precious children about sex education. It doesn't need to be in the public school system at all. It is something that needs to happen that parents need to do. And I always hear this argument from people, especially those on the left, that, well, if parents were doing this kind of stuff, we wouldn't have to do it as teachers. Well, here's the big problem with that. Unfortunately, the way things work is that when you start doing it, parents think, well, they're going to get it at school. Now, that is the most negligent and ignorant thing that you could possibly say about your kids. But if we just roll the tape back a little bit, all the way back in the 50s and the 60s, when we allowed sex education to start taking place in the public school system, parents made a huge boo-boo. They made a huge mistake. And now they think it's not their responsibility to take their young kids and have a birds and bees awkward conversation with them, which of course it is. Because there is not a single teacher that should be teaching this or is qualified to teach this nonsense to our children. And again, in Florida, they're not denying the fact that teachers could or should teach this. They're merely just saying, have age-appropriate conversations. Let's keep this nonsense out of elementary school and perhaps middle school. And I'm going to go even one step further and just be the religious zealot and say, let's just keep it out of school entirely because you're never going to talk to my kid about this. And if you feel nervous about the fact that parents are up in arms about these kind of things and that teachers should have job security and that teachers are the experts, just know this. There's no better expert on the planet for my kid than me. And parents, you do right to stand behind governors like this and bills like this to say, you're not going to teach my kids this kind of nonsense. That's my job. You can catch brand new episodes of Indie Thinker with Reed Huberman every Monday and weekly bonus episodes to keep you thinking throughout the week. But you have to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when new episodes drop. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like this video and share it with friends.